Have you noticed that your destiny changes the very second someone looks at you for the first time? Because yes, what you're thinking is true. People decide whether you're weak, useless, or expendable. Before you open your mouth, they classify you in a blink, they lift you up, they sink you, they forget you. All because of an image you didn't even choose. And do you know what's most terrifying? That first impression doesn't just dictate how they treat you, it dictates who you end up becoming. If today you feel like they step on you, ignore you, or see you as someone who doesn't matter, it's not because of who you are, but because of what you seem like without meaning to. And if you don't know how to handle that first scene, the world rewrites you however it wants. But listen to this carefully, because it's the only reason you should stay. In this video, you're going to discover how to change that immediate impression and turn it into your shield, your weapon, and your advantage. You're going to understand why appearance rules, how it manipulates the human mind, and how you can use it so people respect you, open doors for you, and never again judge you as someone small. Stay, because by the end you'll know exactly how to stop being the victim of others' gaze and start controlling it. And here comes what almost no one dares to look at head-on. The first impression not only decides how others treat you, it decides how you behave yourself afterwards. And that's the real poison. The gaze of others doesn't stay outside. It gets under your skin and starts dictating your gestures, your silences, your way of taking up space. That's the part no one explains. When someone sees you as small, you start moving like someone small. When someone perceives you as insecure, your body adopts that insecurity before you can react. The mind works like that. It's impressionable, it's vulnerable, it's easy to program, and the world reprograms it with a glance. But there's something more unsettling. Something that operates at an even deeper level. The narrative others create about you infiltrates your own inner narrative. And that invasion is almost imperceptible. You don't realize when it started to happen. You don't remember the exact moment you stopped seeing yourself the way you saw yourself and started seeing yourself the way others defined you. That transition is silent, insidious, lethal. And here's where the next point comes in. One no one talks about because it's scary to admit. Most people don't judge your appearance. They judge their own reflection projected onto you. They look at you and search for clues that confirm what they want to see. If they're looking for someone weak, they'll find weakness. If they're looking for someone expendable, they'll find insignificance. If they're looking for someone manipulable, they'll invent it even if it doesn't exist. Judgment isn't born from your image. It's born from their need to interpret your presence. This means something brutal. Many times they don't judge you for what you are, but for what they fear being. And you pay the price. But here comes the most dangerous part, the one that works like a psychological trick almost no one escapes. When someone perceives you through a narrative, your brain automatically adjusts to fit that story. It's a primitive adaptation, a social survival attempt. If someone underestimates you, your mind rearranges itself into a lower position so as not to cause friction. If someone perceives you as neutral, you neutralize yourself to fit in. If someone perceives you as strong, you harden. You're not choosing who you are. You're reacting to others' perception. Now think about this for a second, and I promise you won't like it. If you go through life always waiting for others to decide how you should behave, you'll never have your own identity. You'll be a blank screen where each person projects their fears, desires, prejudices. And you will simply adapt. But it doesn't end there. There's a darker, almost invisible mechanism that activates in first impressions. the emotional anchoring effect. Do you know what it means? That the first image someone has of you gets fixed, stuck, embedded, and everything you do afterward will be interpreted to reinforce that initial impression. If they saw you as weak, even your moments of strength will be seen as exceptions. If they saw you as strong, even your doubts will be interpreted as humility. They're not analyzing what you do. They're protecting what they believed they saw. And so the real question is this: what impression do you want to get embedded in others' minds? Because whether you like it or not, it's going to happen. The difference is whether it happens in your favor or against you. Here comes a completely new point, but one intimately tied to the central theme: the symbols you send without speaking. And no, I'm not talking about expensive clothes or fake status. I'm talking about something much more powerful: psychological markers. Small details the human brain automatically interprets as signals of leadership, emotional stability, and control. An example: the way you set your shoulders. It seems irrelevant, but the human brain associates it with dominance or submission. Another: the speed at which you answer when someone asks you something. It's not quickness that matters, it's the absence of hesitation. Your voice, even if it isn't loud, transmits a message no one can ignore. Who's in charge of whom? These markers work because the brain wants shortcuts. It needs to decide quickly whether you're a threat, an ally, or a burden. And you, without knowing it, are sending signals that decide which box they put you in. But the most surreal part is that these symbols aren't learned naturally. They're trained. And most people don't even know they exist. That's why so many talented people go unnoticed, while others, with less ability but better command of their signals, advance as if the world opened before them without resistance. Now listen to this slowly, because here begins the most addictive part of the video. When you control your visible signals, you control the story others create about you. And when you control that story, you control your social reality. Imagine walking into a place and watching the atmosphere change just because of your presence. Not because you're perfect, but because you've learned to master the codes the human brain interprets without realizing it. Imagine that people treat you with automatic respect, that no one dares belittle you, that the initial perception plays in your favor like an invisible ally. Imagine that first impression becoming an advantage that works for you even when you're silent. It's not witchcraft, it's not innate talent, it's applied psychology. And it's the next step you're about to discover now. Because what comes next isn't theory, it's the exact mechanism that makes some seem untouchable from minute one, and others, though they have worth, go unnoticed. If you want to change how the world sees you, you have to understand what you're about to hear. And when you understand it, you'll never again walk into a place as the same person. And this is where the part that hurts the most to admit begins. When you allow others to define your energy, your mind stops looking for your own. It starts operating in mirror mode, copying gestures, tensions, and tones that aren't even yours. Without realizing it, you adopt the fragility they perceive in you. You absorb the doubt that wasn't yours. You imitate the insecurity that floated in the air. And the worst part is that this mirroring, this tiny crack, feeds precisely the impression others already had. It becomes a spiral that traps you. They see you as small, you act small, they keep seeing you that way, and you shrink a little more every day. That's the emotional anchoring acting inside. The first impression doesn't just embed itself in others' minds, it also embeds itself in yours. And once it gets in, it filters everything. Your victories seem like accidents, your moments of firmness, oddities, your courage, an exception. It's as if that initial label organizes all your actions so as not to contradict itself. They're not trying to know you. They're trying to confirm you. You become a reminder of their first reading, and the more you try to change it through chaotic effort, the more desperation you transmit. That's why silent symbols matter so much, because they act before that anchoring sets in. And when your entire presence sends signals of stability, others have to adjust their perception to something more solid, more compact, harder to mold. You can't avoid being looked at, but you can decide what you hand them in that first impact. And that's where the prophecy that trapped you starts to come apart. And the curious thing is that those symbols don't work because you're strong, but because you're consistent. People fear what doesn't fluctuate, a body that doesn't shrink when it meets others' gaze, a voice that doesn't change its rhythm even when there's tension, an expression that doesn't beg for approval every microsecond. That kind of presence doesn't provoke admiration. It provokes doubt in the one evaluating you. Doubt in their prejudices, doubt in their reading, doubt in their position with respect to you. And that doubt is pure gold, because it breaks the anchor before it can form. That's where your posture, your breathing, and your tempo become silent weapons. Not because they say, "I'm strong," but because they say, "I don't need you to decide how I exist." That's the signal that throws them off. There's no anticipated submission. There's no emotional retreat. There are no micro gestures asking permission. And when that disappears, the brain of the one observing you is left without the narrative it expected to confirm. It starts to look at you differently. And that readjustment, that invisible instant, is what transforms the initial perception into a tool in your favor. Because if they keep you in a low box, it's not out of malice, it's mental economy. It's easier to keep seeing as weak the one who seemed weak. But when your presence breaks their comfort, when you don't fit into the box they'd prepared, the brain is forced to recalculate. And in that recalculation, you regain ground, you regain identity, you regain authority. Everything is intertwined. What you project, what you absorb, what anchors, what's interpreted, what's confirmed, what's destroyed. There are no jumps, there's no new trick, just a continuous chain of perceptions that either crush you or armor you. And when you understand that chain, when you recognize it in real time, you stop being a screen where others project their fears, and you become a mirror that forces them to face their own. That's the presence the world remembers. That's the presence no one dares underestimate. That's the presence that makes the first impression, for the first time, start working for you. And just when you think you've understood how that initial perception operates, another level appears, one even deeper, one that acts even before you decide how to move or how to breathe. The atmosphere you create around you without saying a single word. It's not positive energy or mystical nonsense. It's something much rawer and more measurable. The psychological climate your presence provokes in others. Some generate calm, others discomfort, others tension, others instinctive obedience. And the most disconcerting thing is that this climate doesn't depend on your personality, but on the kind of security your body projects without you noticing. That climate, that invisibly molded environment, is the real reason certain people seem untouchable. Not because they're better, but because their mere entrance alters the emotional reading of those around them. When someone enters with a weak climate, people relax too much. expand, feel licensed to dominate. When someone enters with a stable climate, people adjust their posture, rein in excess, moderate gesture and voice without knowing why. And when someone enters with a strong climate, something more interesting happens. Others arrange themselves around them, as if that person's presence defined the dynamics of the entire space. But there's an even stranger climate, very rare, very uncomfortable for the observer. The opaque climate. It's the climate of people who reveal nothing in their first minute. They don't show insecurity, but they don't show aggressiveness either. They don't smile to please, but they don't create hostile distance. It's as if their presence were a wall without cracks, impossible to read. And that kind of climate causes something devastating. The other person's brain becomes cautious. When it can't classify you, it doesn't dare place itself above you. It prefers to remain neutral, to measure, to respect, because the unknown always imposes more than the obvious. That opaque climate is a brutal psychological weapon because it doesn't place you above or below. It places you at a point where no one dares define themselves before you do. And that gives you time. Time to observe, to choose your place, to decide what role you want to occupy before others assign you one. That temporal advantage changes the entire game. It's the margin most people never have because they enter showing too much. Too much haste, too much need, too much fear-filtered energy. And here arises what's truly relevant. Your inner climate is read before your posture, before your voice, before your gestures. It's the impression before the impression. It's the essence detected before they see you fully. And although it sounds impossible to control, it's influenced by something very specific: the relationship you have with yourself in the presence of others. When you enter a place and notice your mind trying to adjust to all the invisible expectations, your climate becomes soft, malleable, permeable. When you enter trying to prove strength, your climate becomes tense, forced, unbearable for those around you. But when you enter without needing to confirm yourself, without fear of being evaluated, without urgency to validate anything, your climate becomes dense, stable, compact. And that density is what makes gazes bounce, what trips prejudices, and what keeps first impressions from lodging in your skin. That's the true core of social control. Not the appearance itself, but the emotional climate that sustains that appearance. And the curious thing is that almost no one realizes they're transmitting a weak climate because they live trying to avoid judgment. That avoidance creates micro-coldness, micro-tension, micro-fear, subtle signals that, together, build a climate that says, "You can mold me." But when that avoidance disappears, when you don't need to protect yourself from a gaze or win approval, your climate becomes impregnable. And the surprising thing is that you don't have to impose yourself or fake or exaggerate anything. You just have to stop explaining your presence with your body. Bodily silence is what creates the density. And that's when everything comes together. Emotional anchoring, silent symbols, stable posture, rhythm that doesn't fluctuate, control of space. Everything fuses into that compact climate that precedes the word and redefines the initial judgment. While most try to be liked, stand out, or please, you would begin to transmit something very few know how to generate: powerful ambiguity. A presence that doesn't need to explain itself, that doesn't seek validation, and that, precisely because of that, forces others to take you seriously from minute zero. Because nothing unsettles the human brain more than someone who doesn't surrender to its reading. That's the climate that makes the first impression not a sentence, but a tool, A tool that, if you master it, lets you direct the narrative from the start, without raising your voice, without trying to impress, without forcing anything. A tool that turns your mere presence into a territory others tread carefully. And when you achieve that, you're no longer forced to fit into any label, because you're the one handing them out. And just when you think that mastery of climate is the end of the game, something even subtler appears. Something that acts like an underground current pushing perception without anyone being able to stop it. Psychological direction. It's not leadership, it's not charisma, it's not being the center. It's something quieter. The ability to guide others' attention without moving a finger. It's the influence that isn't noticed, isn't perceived, isn't admitted, but everyone feels. Psychological direction is the invisible thread that decides where people look, how they interpret your gestures, and what meaning they give your presence. You don't have to speak. You don't have to hold gazes. You don't have to mark territory. You simply exist in a way that makes others take your internal state as a reference point. It sounds abstract, but it happens daily. When someone enters calm, others lower tension. When someone enters anxious, the environment speeds up. But when someone enters with that opacity that reveals nothing and yet sets a solid internal rhythm, everyone adjusts their behavior without knowing why. It's as if your presence installed a base frequency in the environment, and the minds around tuned in so as not to be out of step. They don't obey you. They don't follow you. They align with you because the human brain prefers to adapt to whoever seems more stable than risk challenging them without knowing them. And here, something fascinating happens. When you exercise that psychological direction without intention, without provoking, without manipulating, it becomes even more powerful because it doesn't come from imposition, but from internal coherence. A coherence that's perceived, even if it's not understood. And that's when people begin to see you differently, not as someone dominant, but as the gravity point of the environment. The one who doesn't need to speak to have influence. The one who doesn't compete because they're not in the race. The one who sets the atmosphere by simply being. That kind of presence completely disarms superficial judgments. No one dares label you quickly because they feel they'd lose credibility by doing so. No one underestimates you because you give no signs of weakness, yet you show no aggressiveness. No one analyzes you like the rest because there's something in you that deactivates mental shortcuts. And when you disconnect those shortcuts, you force the other brain to pay you real attention, not automatic attention. That instant, that small lapse where you break the pattern, is the exact gap in which you can rewrite the initial impression. And here comes the most interesting part. Psychological direction creates a very dangerous illusion for others. An illusion that works in your favor without you having to do anything. The illusion that you know more than you say, that you see more than you appear to, that you think more than you express. And the illusion that, because of that, you are not someone they can treat lightly. When an environment feels it can't read you, it becomes careful with you. And that care is the beginning of respect, not because you're imposing, but because you're unpredictable. The human brain hates not knowing what it's facing, so it prefers to keep distance, measure words, adjust tones, filter behaviors. Without you asking, they start speaking to you differently, observing you differently, treating you differently. And that difference in treatment creates something even stronger. The perception of natural authority. Authority that doesn't come from strength or status or words, but from mystery, from density, from that opacity that shows no cracks or explanations. You're a closed space they can't enter, yet they can't look away. And here everything reconnects with the main idea. In a world where first impressions decide your destiny, the atmosphere you generate and the psychological direction you exercise are the tools that turn that initial impression into a weapon. Because you are no longer the one being evaluated. They're the ones who feel evaluated by you. And there, in that tense silence, in that strange equilibrium where no one wants to be the first to make a mistake with you, is where something appears that very few get to experience. The invisible advantage. The one that makes doors open before you touch them. The one that makes them listen to you without interrupting. The one that keeps them from daring to speak to you condescendingly. The one that transforms your presence into a territory others step onto with caution. When you reach that point, the first impression stops being a judgment you receive and becomes a judgment you generate. And that is the true power in a world that decides your value in a blink. And when you think that invisible advantage is the most you can aspire to, an even more decisive component appears, one very few know because it can't be seen, heard, or easily analyzed. The mental imprint you leave on others after the first encounter. I'm not talking about emotional impact or making a good impression. I'm talking about something deeper, more technical, more psychological. The way your presence keeps resonating in the mind of the one who observed you, even when you're no longer in front of them. This mental imprint is what differentiates those who go unnoticed from those who become hard-to-forget figures. And it has nothing to do with being flashy, or standing out, or having an explosive personality. In fact, it's just the opposite. The strongest imprint is left by those who seem to contain more than they show. People who don't hand over all their information. Those who make the other person think. Those who force the other brain to fill in the gaps. And that gap is what becomes unforgettable. Because here's the fascinating part. The brain remembers best what it doesn't fully understand. The ambiguous, the incomplete, what it can't classify, what doesn't fit its predefined categories. And when you present yourself in a way that breaks its shortcuts, that can't be reduced to a quick label, that neither confirms nor denies the assumptions, the brain keeps working on you even after you've left. It turns you into a small enigma, an open unknown, a piece its system can't file. And what can't be filed stays present. That's why there are people you know for a minute and forget 10 minutes later, while others, even after minimal interaction, stay with you. Not for what they said, but for what they didn't say. Not for how they acted, but for what they hinted at without showing it. That's the mental imprint, a silent mark that continues building in the other person's mind without you having to do anything at all. And the interesting thing is that this imprint doesn't depend only on your inner climate or your psychological direction, but on something even sharper. The gap between what you show and what you seem to contain. When your exterior conveys control, but your interior suggests depth. When your body moves calmly, but your gaze seems to evaluate. When your language is simple, but your presence hints at complexity. That minimal contradiction triggers a mechanism of prolonged attention. Others feel that you have more layers than have been revealed. And that sensation, even if subtle, is magnetic. Most people show too much, explain too much. They empty themselves in every interaction because they think giving it all is synonymous with transparency, authenticity, closeness. And what they actually achieve is reducing themselves, simplifying themselves, becoming something completely dominated by others' gaze. But when you do the opposite, when you show enough to be present and hide enough to be an enigma, people can't calculate you. And if they can't calculate you, they can't place you below them. That's the secret of many figures who seem to have natural authority without having proved anything yet. They leave gaps, they leave silences, they leave pauses that force you to think. And that pause, that millisecond when the brain looks for an answer it can't find, is the exact point where your value skyrockets. Because the unknown always weighs more than the obvious. And here comes a much more powerful nuance. The mental imprint determines how they perceive you even before the second meeting. When you see someone again who couldn't classify you, that person comes already conditioned, more attentive, more cautious, more open to respecting you, more inclined to listen. Not because of what you did, but because of what they failed to understand about you. And that, in a world governed by first impressions, is an advantage very few know how to use. The mental imprint creates a continuity effect in perception. Your presence continues acting even in your absence. It's like an echo that doesn't fade, a silent reminder that you're not someone trivial, a psychological message that says, "This one isn't easy to read." And that sentence, even if they don't say it out loud, is what reconfigures your social position without you lifting a finger. The incredible thing is that this concept doesn't break anything that came before. It's not a new theme, really. It's the logical consequence of everything you're building, the climate you project, the psychological direction you install, the opacity you maintain, the density that doesn't crack. It all leads to this, to the imprint, a presence that doesn't evaporate when you leave, an impression that doesn't dissolve, an identity that can't be reduced to a first glance. And that impossibility is your greatest weapon in a world that decides your value in seconds. And that careful treatment starts to modify something much deeper. The social concessions others are willing to grant you. It has nothing to do with likability, or being charming, or seeming nice. It has to do with the value they believe you represent, even before they know you. There are people who get more margin for error, more patience, more respect, and more silence around them simply because of the impression they generate. They're treated as if they belonged to a different level, even though they haven't proven anything yet. And that happens due to a silent psychological process. Others' imagination works for you. When someone can't fully read you, they won't risk acting against you. They don't cut you off, don't talk over you, don't challenge you gratuitously, don't put you in the low box. They prefer to wait, observe, calculate. And that waiting is a privilege, because while others are judged in 5 seconds, you're judged in 30, 60, 100. That extra time is a door. It's a cushion. It's a space where you can build your true impression before the first one turns into a sentence. And here, an even more valuable mechanism appears: the spontaneous assignment of value. When someone feels they can't decipher you, they don't think you're worthless. They think maybe you're worth too much to risk getting it wrong with you. That small doubt multiplies your presence. You don't become stronger on the inside, but more impossible to underestimate on the outside. But perception doesn't stop at doubt. It moves towards something much more decisive: the invisible redistribution of power. The human brain does this without asking permission. If someone seems more stable, harder to read, firmer in their rhythm, the brain places them in a slightly higher position in the social hierarchy, not by merit, but by instinct. And in that instant, even if they don't say it, you are one step above in that interaction. That small step changes everything. It changes how they talk to you. It changes how they listen to you. It changes how they behave when you address them. It changes how they interpret your silences. And here we enter something almost no one knows how to control: the hierarchical mirror effect. When people perceive you in a higher position, they start behaving more carefully in front of you. They become more prudent, more measured, more attentive. That cautious behavior acts as reinforcement in your own internal perception. You see yourself treated with respect, and you start behaving like someone who deserves respect. It's a self-reinforcing circuit. And the more they see you that way, the more you feel that way. And the more you feel that way, the more they see you that way. That's why the first impression is so dangerous and so powerful in your hands if you know how to handle it. Because it doesn't stay in the first second. It builds an entire system around itself. A system where you decide whether you enter from below, from the center, or from a height that forces others to recalculate their position in relation to you. And here comes the truly fine part, the one very few perceive. When the projected narrative starts to favor you, others begin to protect it, even without meaning to, even without being aware. Why? Because no one wants to admit they were wrong, to judge you. So if they assigned you value, they look for evidence to confirm that value. If they assigned you strength, they reinterpret your doubts as strategy. If they assigned you competence, they justify your mistakes as exceptions. The brain hates contradicting itself. And when you generate a strong first impression, everything you do afterward is readjusted to fit that image. That's the real hidden trick. Others work to maintain your status because it's more comfortable than reformulating their entire perception from zero. And this takes us to an even deeper point, one very few use to their advantage: the effect of social gravitation. Once your presence begins to be perceived as a solid center, people around you adjust their energy to align with you, not out of submission, but out of the need for coherence. It's exactly what happens in a physical system. The densest attracts, the most stable organizes, the firmest defines the structure of everything around it. You don't need to raise your voice, or boast, or impose anything. Your mere presence reorganizes others' behavior, and that, in a world governed by appearances, isn't an advantage. It's a power. ChatGPT+. And from that silent power arises something very few suspect, but everyone feels when they cross paths with someone who masters the first impression: anticipation. It's not you who anticipates the world. It's the world that begins to anticipate your reactions. And when that happens, the dynamic changes completely. People start taking care not to seem clumsy in front of you, not to sound ignorant, not to be exposed. They become more calculated, more attentive, more controlled. And without realizing it, they start preparing for you before you open your mouth. This phenomenon is incredibly subtle. It's not fear, it's not admiration, it's not blind respect. It's something more sophisticated. It's the sensation that your opinion weighs more than others, even if you haven't said anything yet. And that happens because, in their mind, you already occupy a position they don't want to challenge without reason. This anticipation is like an invisible carpet that rolls out in front of you every time you enter a place. It smooths frictions, removes defiant behaviors, and leaves space for your presence to sit comfortably at the central point of the interaction. But here comes the twist that changes everything. When others begin to anticipate you, they also begin to yield the rhythm to you. They adjust their speed, their pauses, their timing, while you keep yours. And when people adapt their rhythm to yours, They unknowingly hand you the key to control. Every group follows the beat that offers the most stability. And if yours is the firmest, most compact, and least predictable presence in appearance, your rhythm becomes the rhythm of the environment. This even changes the way they listen to you. They don't just hear your words. They respond to the intention they believe is behind them. They leave room for you to finish. They keep silent so as not to interrupt you. They wait for your reaction to know whether they got it right. And suddenly, your presence becomes an indicator, a thermometer, a silent reference everyone consults without realizing it. This phenomenon has an even more interesting side effect: selective revelation. When your presence induces caution, people stop showing their most defensive version and begin to show their most authentic version. They open up without meaning to. They confess without trusting. They tell you more than they should. Not because you're close, but because your opaque climate creates a space where they themselves feel the need to fill the silences. There are people who master this effect without knowing it. They make others talk too much, reveal too much, expose insecurities they didn't want to show. And that revelation hands you silent power. You know more about them than they know about you. In any human interaction, the one who knows more dominates more. Not because they do anything, but because they see the whole map, while the other sees only a part. And here something even more powerful appears: narrative asymmetry. They've already told themselves a story about you, a story in which you are firmer, more stable, or more valuable than they knew. A story they've started protecting without meaning to. And while they try to maintain coherence with that story, you enter the game without them knowing yours. That asymmetry lets you move your piece without anyone being able to anticipate it. It gives you total freedom. It gives you space. It gives you advantage. But there's another level, one very few reach, which arises right when that silent advantage becomes constant: the transfer of perceptual responsibility. It means that when people can't classify you easily, they begin to take responsibility for interpreting you correctly. And that responsibility makes them more careful, more attentive, more aware of every detail you offer. They don't judge impulsively. They make an effort. They observe you. They think before speaking to you. And they start carrying the burden of understanding you while you remain silent. That silence becomes a tool, an invisible weapon, a way to shape perceptions without uttering a single word. Because in that silence, they fill the gaps with interpretations that usually favor you. And this dynamic reaches an extraordinary point: the inverted social prophecy. You're no longer the one adapting to others' initial judgment. They're the ones adapting to the image they themselves created of you. And when that happens, you become a center of gravity. Not by force, not by appearance, not by speeches, by something much subtler. Because others started imagining you before they got to know you. That's the true summit of the first impression. It's not being likable. It's not impressing. It's not seeming perfect. It's mastering the first seconds to such an extent that the world decides, by instinct, that you are someone who deserves their best version. If you want, I'll keep lifting this topic into even finer planes: strategic perception, mental economy, the creation of silent status, inverse reading, the psychology of danger, calculated absence, implicit authority, and that implicit authority, when it starts consolidating, opens the door to a much more sophisticated territory, almost hidden in plain sight: influence without action. A state in which your presence not only organizes the environment, but also conditions the perception of intentions. Because here, a phenomenon appears that very few understand. When someone perceives you as stable, impenetrable, and hard to read, they also begin to assume that everything you do has a purpose, even if it doesn't, even if you're just breathing. That's the point where your silence is no longer a void, it's a statement. Your gaze isn't a gesture, it's a signal. Your pause isn't a breath, it's a message. And others interpret it, analyze it, load it with meaning. Symbolic load. That's what this mechanism is called. It's the human tendency to attribute intention to every gesture of a figure it deems relevant. And here's the most delicate part. This symbolic load doesn't depend on your objective behavior, but on the importance they perceive in you. You can say something neutral, and they'll treat it as if it had a second layer. You can make a simple movement, and they'll see it as a calculated nuance. You can keep silent, and they'll believe you're evaluating or deciding something. It proves that the first impression has ceased to be a photo and has become a mental frame. That symbolic load generates a precious, almost strategic effect. Others' self-correction. They don't need you to call them out. They don't need you to set a boundary. They don't need you to show annoyance. They adjust their behavior on their own. They soften their words on their own. They moderate their energy on their own, because they feel that any small gesture could mean something to you. And they don't do it out of fear. They do it because they don't want to lose their own status within your perception. From there, another, even subtler level kicks in. Vigilance over one's own value. When someone feels you're not easy to impress, they begin to watch their own conduct so as not to fall short. Instead of evaluating you, they evaluate themselves. Instead of trying to control the situation, they try to control themselves. And that puts you at an absolute advantage. They're busy with themselves, while you only have to observe. This inversion of focus is one of the most powerful mechanisms in any human interaction, because the one who observes dominates more than the one who tries to impress. The one who interprets dominates more than the one who justifies. And now that we've made it this far, before we continue, I want to present the following to you. Our book, The Formula of Awakening, is now available. Do you feel like there's something inside you that wants to awaken, but you don't know where to start? Then I invite you to transform your way of thinking, and with it, your way of living. Discover who you can become. Start today. The link to get the ebook is in the first pinned comment of this video. Grab your copy now at a great price. With that said, let's continue with the video. The one who keeps calm dominates more than the one who feels the need to show off. And here a concept appears that borders on the tactical. The economy of mystery. The more selective you are with what you reveal, the more value they assign to every detail you show. The little becomes important. The scarce becomes significant. Every word weighs more. Every gesture matters more. Every movement is read with a magnifying glass. Your presence stops being noise and becomes symbol. And when your presence becomes symbol, something even more fascinating happens. You begin to shape others' imaginary, not with grand acts, not with speeches, not with explicit authority, with something much more elegant: omissions, strategic silences, small decisions others magnify without you having to push them. Others' perception begins to grow around you like an architecture they themselves build with the bricks you choose to leave in view. And that imaginary grants you an advantage that borders on the surreal, the ability to influence even when you're not present. Your name travels before your presence. Your reputation moves faster than your voice. Your image holds firmer than your gestures. Others talk about you using their own imagination, which means their version of you will always be bigger, firmer, or more intense than anything you could build by speaking. Because it's not based on what you are, but on what their mind reconstructs. Here, another key concept appears: the social shadow. Not the dark shadow or a dramatic metaphor, but the projection you leave when you go. The social shadow is the psychological trail that accompanies you without you being present. And it has two effects. First, it conditions how they will act with you in the future. Second, it conditions how they will talk about you when you're not there. People who master the first impression aren't remembered for what they said, but for how they made the other feel about themselves. If someone felt clumsy, admired, analyzed, inspired, or unsettled with you, they will speak about you through that emotion. And that emotion spreads like a rumor, like an echo, like a narrative that opens doors for you without your knowing. All this begins to build a form of presence that is no longer just visual, bodily, or atmospheric. It's an extended presence, a presence that exists before, during, and after your actual appearance. A presence that ensures that even before the second encounter, you already have an advantage. A presence that turns any future interaction into a territory where you're already one step ahead. And when you reach that level, what happens isn't magic. It's pure psychology. You become someone the rest of the world prefers never to underestimate. If you want, I'll keep building new levels. The management of prolonged silence, the perception of social risk, controlled unpredictability, inverted pressure, reading micro-fear, the strategy of emotional reserve, the art of sharp presence. And when you understand that it's not just about how they see you, but about how you remain in others' minds even when you're no longer there, the final element appears. The one that closes this entire psychological puzzle. The presence that decides your destiny even when you're not looking. The most dangerous, the most powerful, and the most ignored. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. The world doesn't treat you according to what you are, but according to what it believes you are. And if you've come this far in the video, you already know it. That belief isn't born from your essence, but from your initial impression, your climate, your opacity, your density, and your ability to keep more layers than you reveal. But one level is missing, one most people never touch. The level where you consciously decide who you want to be in others' minds. Without theater, without masks, without forcing anything. It's the moment you start to see human interaction as a board, where every gesture, every silence, every look has an impact you can't afford to ignore. Not to manipulate, but to stop being manipulated. So that the first impression stops being a threat and becomes your armor. The end of this whole path isn't to become someone perfect, or someone cold, or someone inaccessible. The goal is simple, brutal, and definitive. To become someone no one can reduce to a single glance. Someone who can't be put into a little box. Someone who can't be controlled with cheap prejudices. Someone who commands respect not by shouting, but by how they stand on their own axis. Because listen closely. In a world where people judge you before they know your name, holding your power in the first minute is an act of survival, and mastering it is an act of freedom. The true conclusion of all this isn't that you should pretend, or act, or disguise yourself. It's understanding that if you don't direct the first impression, someone else will do it for you. If you don't control your climate, someone will project theirs onto you. If you don't choose your density, they'll turn you into air. If you don't learn to handle your presence, they'll make you a supporting character in your own life. And the most beautiful, most ironic, and most liberating thing is this. When you know how to handle your first impression, when you don't break, when you don't explain yourself, when you hold your rhythm, when you don't surrender to judgment, you don't just change how the world sees you, you change how you see yourself. Because when you start being treated as someone who has value, your mind starts to believe it. When people lower their voices to listen to you, your brain learns that your voice matters. When others adjust to your presence, your insecurities dissolve. When you conquer the first minute, you start conquering the next ones. That's the real power of everything you've just heard. That's the true end point. The first impression is not a mirror of the world. It's a mirror of yourself, returned, multiplied. And now I'm going to ask you for something. Not for the channel, not for the algorithm, but because I want to know if you truly understood what you just heard. Write a simple sentence in the comments. My presence no longer negotiates. Just that. No explanations, no context. That sentence is your declaration that you're going to stop giving up ground in the first seconds. That you're going to start taking control before others place you where it suits them. And if this video stirred something in you, if it touched that point you don't like to look at, but know you need to work on, subscribe. This channel isn't for lulling consciences to sleep. It's for awakening identities. If you want to keep refining your presence, your climate, your density, and your narrative, here you'll find the exact jolt you were missing. And now, yes, I'm going to say goodbye the way those who leave a mark say goodbye. Without warning, without explaining, without asking permission. I'll leave you with your own mind, which is, in the end, the only place where everything that transforms you begins. See you in the next video. Or rather, you'll see me arrive before I enter.